Hey guys, Travis Gillespie here. Today we're going to divide, and we're going to actually divide by a specific number. It's a special number, and we're going to see what happens when we divide by this number. So we're going to divide by the number 0. Now let's just take an example. Let's look at what happens when we divide the number 10 by 0. Most people will probably say 10 divided by 0 is equal 10 divided by 0 is equal to 0. But this is not the case. So let's go ahead and put a slash through that equal sign. This tells us that 10 divided by 0, well, it's not equal to 0. Well, before we figure out why this is what it is, let's go ahead and just take that number 10 again, and we're going to divide it by some other values. This time we'll just divide 10 by itself. So 10 divided by 10 is equal to 1. And if I were to take 10 and divide it by, 5, that's half of 10. So 10 divided by 5 is equal to 2. And if we were to take 10 and divide it by 2, we would get the value 5. And let's look at one more here in this list. Let's take 10 and divide it by the value 1. So when you divide 10 by 1, it is equal to 10. I want to take a look at these numbers real quick, and I think that you're going to see the same pattern I do. As the denominator, or the value in the denominator, gets smaller, well, since we're dividing by the same numerator, this value over here gets larger. So again, as the denominator gets, let me say it another way. If your numerator is the same value every time, as your denominator gets smaller, the result, or the quotient, will get larger, and we see that here. It's getting larger. So let's continue dividing that number 10. We're going to use the same numerator, and we're just going to keep making that denominator smaller and see what happens. This time we're getting smaller than 1. Well, let's divide by 1/2. So 10 divided by 1/2, well, that gives us a value of 20. And 10 divided by 1/4, or 1/4, will give us a value of 40. And let's go ahead and fix that 4 real quick. So we have 40 here. And now let's look at 10 divided by, well, 1/8, and this is equal to 80. And let's take 10 and divide it by 1/10. So 10 divided by 1/10, that should be a 10, not a 2, is equal to, well, let's look here, 100. Okay, so now we see that the number is definitely getting smaller in the denominator each time. And as this denominator approaches 0, as it gets closer to 0, well, the result, or the quotient, is still getting larger. So let's look at what happens when you divide the number 10 by 0. Well, we've already stated it doesn't equal 0, and this is a part of the proof. As the denominator gets smaller, as it approaches 0, the result, or the quotient, gets larger. So there's no way that 10 divided by 0 should equal 0. So what does it equal? And we're going to use our good old friend long division to help us out here. So I'm going to just arrow over, and since 10's in the numerator, we're going to put 10 in the box, or 10 in the house. And I want to fix that house, make it a nice house here. And we are going to put 0, the number in the denominator, outside, knocking on the door. Okay, so what we've got to ask ourselves from this point is, what can you multiply 0 by to reach 10? So let's go ahead and change colors here and start trying to multiply 0 by various numbers to make it reach 10. So 0 times 1 is equal to 0. 0 times, well, let's try 10. 0 times 10 is equal to 0. And we could say 0 times 100, well, that also equals 0. And 0 times, well, let's try 1,000. Guess what? Still equals 0. I'm going to just throw one more in. 0 times, times 1 million this time. So we have 1 million. And we're going to find again that this is equivalent to 0. So regardless, whatever you try to multiply 0 by, it will always result with a product of 0. So what we see here is that the method of multiplication, well, it doesn't work if you're trying to make 0 a larger number. So 0 times any number will always have a product of 0. So how does this information help you in solving the problem 10 divided by 0, or any number divided by 0 in that case? Well, what this information tells you is you could try to multiply 0 by any number. There's an infinite amount of possibilities. You could try to multiply all the way up to infinity. You will always get a product of 0. So you would call this result or quotient undefined. So whenever you find that 0 is in the denominator, your answer is undefined. Now if you tried to type this in your calculator and do it, you might get something such as an error message. It would probably say error on it. Cool stuff, guys. I'll see you in the next video.